Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. Today is actually a pretty special day for me. It is my 5th year of being a full-time artist and a small business owner. So I thought I would make a special video today and do a Q&A and answer some questions you guys had for me. I mostly ask these questions on like Instagram and Twitter, so let's get started. For my first question, this is from Little Reshi. They say, any tips for getting accepted to artist alleys? Been having troubles with application, sad face emoji. So a lot of things people need to consider is that it's being accepted into an artist alley is not a reflection on your ability as an artist or your technical skill or even your popularity, because a lot of conventions nowadays I'm starting to see will try to vary with who they accept. So they'll accept artists of all types. So they'll have like lower technical skill artists, which when I say technical skill, I mean you could say they're bad artists, but it's just like I prefer lower technical skill, and good artists too. And the conventions want to make a variety and not have like the same artists that you always see at conventions, because if you've noticed, like there's a theme where the same artists for a while were getting accepted into like every convention, and they were kind of oversaturating the convention. So I noticed a lot of conventions recently started to kind of vary their artist quality, if you will, which I think is really good, because this also gives local artists a chance. I've noticed they've starting to do that as well, so accept local artists more, because it's like, you know, the local community type of thing, when before it was just kind of like a popularity contest. So first things first, you can't really take that personally if they accept you, if they don't, because like I personally get rejected from conventions all the time, and it's just something that, like, you know, I understand. And I know sometimes like I'll get rejected from a convention and I'll see someone with a similar style but lower technicality than me and lower following than me, and it's not something, like I said, it's not something you can take personally. It's just something that conventions do. They try to have a varied amount of artists. But for a tip, I think you need to highlight, of course you need to have a good portfolio, kind of show exactly what it is you're going to sell. A lot of conventions like it when you have a photo of your booth already made, like, so you can say like, hey, this is exactly what it's going to look like at the convention. If you've never been to a convention, I would suggest making a mock-up at home, so a little fake convention booth, if you will, but also highlight your strengths, because like I noticed for me, I started getting accepted into a lot of conventions more when I was saying I have over 200 different Chibi characters or keychains, because a lot of times these conventions want to have a variety for their vendors. So, you know, saying I have 200 different items, that really set me apart from the rest. And I noticed when I started adding that to my applications, I was getting accepted a lot more. So if you have a particular thing that you're good at, or you say, for example, you have fandoms that are not very popular, you know, I would definitely recommend putting that on there, because a lot of times a lot of artists, and especially artists who rely on conventions as a source of income, they tend to do flavor of the month type of stuff, popular stuff. So think of like Genshin Impact, Jujutsu Kaisen, I think it's called, Hunter x Hunter, Naruto, like a lot of like, I want to say almost like normie tier, because that's very profitable and very popular right now. So it'll be, it's hard. It's funny enough, it's like hard to sell those items because there's so much competition for them. So if you kind of state like, hey, I do fandoms from a series that no one usually creates for, I think that could really get you to stand apart from the rest. Another thing is like, mention if you're local, because like, you know, a lot of local conventions will have you know, like kind of favoritism, but like in a good way, of like local artists. Mention if it's your first time conventioning, like mention if you are wanting to get into like convention, kind of like be honest of like your situation, because like there are people reading these applications and they're more likely to be empathetic than if you just say like, I'm here for the profit, that type of thing. You know, be honest with them, explain kind of what you're doing and what you want to achieve, and I think that will definitely help you set apart from the rest. Mermark says, what's your favorite fandom to draw for? I want to say, I would have to say probably Black Rock Shooter, because there's not a lot of people who like Black Rock Shooter, and you know, she's very dear to me, of course. But second would be Girls Frontline, because the community is really funny. Like I've seen so many photos of my my keychains with actual guns and like our airsoft guns, and it's just the funniest thing to me that like people are putting, you know, keychains on their guns. So I would have to say like Girls Frontline is probably my favorite community I've drawn for. Uni Shiba says, what did you do before becoming a full-time artist? So I started doing this 5 years ago, so I think I was like 21 or 20, and I had a career before I became an artist, and it kind of ended dramatically, and maybe one day I'll talk about it. But after that, I had a lot of trouble getting jobs because I don't have like a proper college education. So, you know, it was really hard to find a job, and I had to go to one of those job recruiting sites or whatever, where, yeah, truthfully, it's like for people who can't find a job and they generally don't have very high credentials or certifications or anything like that. So I did one of those, and I was placed in this medical manufacturing company called Medtronic. And essentially what I was doing was just okay, so you know when you go to the doctors and they have like Q-tips and other disposable medical pieces that, like, it's not obviously equipment, but it's like disposables. And essentially what I was doing was just packaging those. And I was like, there's like, people hand put the labels on those packaging because I think it's a kind of like a sanitary reason. So I was packaging disposable medical equipment assisted items. You know what I mean? So that's what I was doing. And one day they just called me and they just said you had been laid off. And I was like, okay, this sucks. And around that time, I was already considering, like, I'd already tried making my little keychains, and I was like, you know, I think I really want to try selling these because I think this is something that people would like. I like them. I'm biased right there. I thought it was something that I could definitely live off of, and so I pushed to do that. Before Medtronic and during high school, I had some like odds and end jobs, which was like I worked at Pizza Hut, and then I also worked at Jimmy John's sandwich making company. But that's what I was. That's what I did before I became an artist. Mathasuki Collect says, can we expect more products like Chibi stands, pins, figures of your OCs in the future? Absolutely. I've noticed that it's what I really want to draw. I really want to draw a lot of more OC content, but I just keep getting like, I don't want to say addicted, but it's just like, I have a very completionist mentality towards, like, if I draw one character, I'm like, well, I have to draw this character to go with it. And then I have to draw this one. And next, you know, I've drawn like, you know, fan art, like 6 illustrations in a row. And I'm trying to vary that and add more of my OC content. But I think I've kind of set a goal for myself that after this anime expo, I'm going to really focus on commissions and like OC content. Because I do have that visual novel, because I have that webcomic storyline that I really want to accomplish and complete. So I really am going to be focusing on the visual novel after Anime Expo. Mui Kiro says, least favorite Vocaloid. My least favorite Vocaloid is Len. I'm a big Rin fan. She's my favorite Vocaloid. And I hate the fact that she is always with him. Like, she very rarely exists independently of him, like for merchandise and for figures and stuff like that. And I kind of wish she would just get more attention by herself, because I think she deserves it. And I really don't like Len's voice that much. It used to be, actually, I really cannot stand Mako. Everybody loves Mako and they're like, oh, she's so good. Everyone's lying. Everyone feels bad for her. And that's why they say they're her favorite Vocaloid. She does not sound that good. Okay, so least favorite Vocaloid, Len. Second, Mako. Like, her design's boring. I'm not a big Mako fan. Sorry, Mako fans. Sorry, Len fans. It's what you guys deserve. Acerola Lu says, what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue freelance art but gets easily demotivated? That's a great question. And I would say, so I'm gonna be completely honest with you. You have to be kind of insane to make a career out of art and to do this freelance, because this is extremely exhausting. It takes a lot of mental stress. Me personally, you know, I've been doing this for 5 years, and I'm kind of at my breaking point, to be completely honest, where I've got to make some changes, otherwise I won't be able to continue this. Like, I cannot consider doing this. I don't think about doing this for the next like 20 years. I mean, certainly it's an option, but it's like I would like to progress as an artist and a creator, but you have to have like the mental fortitude to push yourself, because the thing is like, imagine telling you yourself or your friends or whatever, I'm gonna stop going to school, I'm going to stop having a normal job, and I'm gonna sell keychains for a living. Like, it sounds absolutely insane. And you have to be extremely, extremely motivated and say like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna sell keychains for a living. Otherwise, you know, it's not going to work out. And I notice a lot of people, some artists won't be as technically skilled, but they'll have the motivation to draw and to produce and make more content. And that gets them further than an artist who is extremely technically skilled and who's just not motivated to push themselves. In fact, I've seen like a lot of like, you would even say industry artists, like professional artists, who don't have art as a full-time job just because they don't understand that you have to have motivation when it comes to this kinds of things. So as far as that go, like I would say like straight up, like be delusional, be your biggest cheerleader. Personally, what I've noticed that helps a lot of people is to create almost like an alternate persona of like who you want to be, you know, like for example, like, you know, as like immersion break, if you will, like you know, Kayozia, my little character, is, you know, kind of like a persona. It's like the best part of myself, even though I do have a mental breakdowns every now and then, like on main. But it's like, it's a persona I put on to, you know, hopefully motivate myself and my audience to continue creating artwork, because I think because I'm in this position of I'm living off of my artwork, and it's a very privileged position. I have to hold the people who watch me, and I have to treat them a certain way, because I don't want to sit here and complain and cry all the time that like, oh, woe is me, I fucking have a great job, and I'm gonna cry about it, because I think it's insulting to the average person who would love to be in this position and doesn't have the opportunity that I have. So where the fuck was I going? Creating like an alternate persona of what you would like to be, I think is extremely beneficial for trying to accomplish your goals in any circumstance, and not just drawing either. Like, you know, draw up a little avatar, create a little fictional name, and be like, this is who I want this person to be. And every time you think to yourself, man, I, Acceleralu, am not feeling motivated, think about what your persona would say. Like, would your persona be motivated to do this? And if so, yes, then like try and copy what that persona would do. That's my best recommendation, to be completely honest with you. That, and understand that it does not take a lot of people to be an independent artist who sells online. Like, I have a dedicated fan base, and everyone sees the 26,000 on my Instagram, but like most of those accounts are either dead or just don't even see me. I would say on average, maybe 1,500 accounts see me based on my story views. So it's not a lot of people. And if you understand that like the odds game where you only need a few people to stay afloat, I think that's a little bit more motivating. Idol Doki says, how did you first start drawing? I first started drawing when I was like 4 or 5. I was at a daycare and I was playing with my friends, and I saw this girl sitting by herself, and she was drawing horses. Like, she was like one of those horse girls. It was like real obsessed with horses. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm drawing horses. And I just found that so fascinating. Like, I just sat there and watched her draw horses, and then I left. And then I started drawing. And I started buying like how to draw books and all that stuff. And I just started drawing. For the longest time, up until I was like 11, I used to draw only animals, like Neopets, My Littlest Pet Shop, My Little Pony, stuff like that. And then I saw Chi from Chobits, and it just awoken something inside of me. I started drawing anime, and I have not stopped drawing anime since. One Molly Loy says, your coloring your coloring process. I'll try and include a little speed run video of my coloring process. It's actually extremely simple. Like, I never learned how to properly shade, so I just color, I think it's called cell shading. It's where you don't blend the colors, and that's it. I just do a lot of like, I do like real detailed illustrations, so it kind of looks greater than what it is, but when you zoom in, it's just cell shading. Like, I draw a line darker for the shading, and I go from there. Luciola VizDev says, any tips for getting into conventions? Just try and start locally. Do not overlook local events, local conventions, like local little tiny, like 1,000 people show up, or like night markets. Not only will that give you a good idea of what the experience is like, but also a lot of times, like, say if you're the best artist out of like 10 vendors and 2,000 people show up, you're, you know, going to do a sweep of the convention and do really, really well. I've noticed that sometimes when I have the most merchandise, or if I'm the most skilled artist in a very small event, a lot more people will come to me compared to my peers, and it's a very, very beneficial thing. So you can go to like a really, really small event and, you know, make a good amount of money. That, and having a good website. Don't use for your portfolio, don't use like Twitter or Instagram like that. Use like Portfolio Box, I think is the one I usually use. Recently I redesigned my website where it's all like flashy now, so now I'm just gonna give my website as my portfolio. But make sure you have a good portfolio for people who are reviewing your applications to see it and understand exactly what it is you're trying to sell, what your whole theming is, etc., etc. And I think that will do you a lot of good. Glitchin Jemmy says, how do you deal with art blocks? So me personally, I never have had the problem with art blocks. Like I've never opened a canvas and says, I don't know what to draw. Because I guess I have like a lot of ideas, but sometimes like if you mean art blocks as in like say you open up a blank canvas and you're trying to draw something and it just won't turn out, my biggest recommendation is to pull up some references of what you want to draw. So that way you can like, you know, use that to transfer the references onto your paper. So you're not just coming up with stuff from your head. I think a lot of people don't understand when you come to be a professional artist is you're always using references, like always. Never really are you just like blank canvas, nothing's going on, and then suddenly you just, you know, shit out a beautiful illustration or something like that. You're always using references. So spend a lot of time looking up your favorite artists and seeing what you like about them in particular. Like for example, like if you like my bright colors in my illustrations, you know, look for the theming of why do you like that bright color specifically? Like for example, for my character, Kayozia's design, I really love Hatsune Miku and I love this blue shade of hair that people give her a lot of times. So I took that blue shade of hair and put this as a primary color on my VTuber avatar, as my character avatar, because I like that aspect of the character and I wanted to add that to my own character. So that's, I think, where the whole saying where bad artists copy, good artists steal. It's like you steal like the best aspect you liked of the illustration. But say I like really a Japanese style clothes, for example. And for example, I used Masa Works Design music. I love his designs and his illustrations. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of want to implement that into my character. So I don't know if you guys can hear my cat. So I took some of those, you know, Japanese elements and put them into my character. So it's like you're constantly stealing, you know, the things you like about other artists and putting it into yours. I do not recommend like one for one copying exactly another artist's work because personally I find it extremely insulting, intellectually lazy, and also, you know, you have the power to draw whatever it is you want and create something new. It's like, why would you not want to try and push yourself to create a new style that no one else has seen before? So Nuke Guy 115 says, is it just you or do you work with anybody else? So the majority of the time I will say it's just me, but I do have some trusted like friends that help me out for conventions and stuff like that. Like sometimes like if I have really bad like social kind of problems and being out in public. So sometimes conventions can be very fatiguing for me, and so I have like a trusted group of people that I can trust to help me at the conventions or go if I can't go, that sort of thing. Like for example, for Anime Expo, that convention is so huge, I have to have a group of people. I cannot do it by myself. But as far as like, you know, the illustration process, the creation process, that's 100% just me. Bikari 2015 says, is there anything that inspires your art in particular? Bright colors, and it's really hard to say because like once you kind of start to develop a style of your own, it's like your own art inspires you, and so you tend to piggyback off of that. So for example, say like my Kayozia VTuber avatar, this artwork was done I think like last year, and you know, there are some aspects of it that I would like to change. I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll change the ribbon color. So it's like, and so I changed the ribbon color. So it's mostly like myself and trying out different things that inspires me. But as far as external artists, for my Chibi artwork, Chan XCO is a big inspiration of like the uniformity for the Chibis, and then Funko Pops for branding, because you can, as soon as you see a Funko Pop, you know exactly what it is, where it's from, blah blah blah. And I think that's very inspirational for branding. And music has always inspired me. If I look back on my old DeviantArt posts on DeviantArt, a lot of them were drawn from like Vocaloid music videos. So I would actually say music is actually my biggest inspiration. So Elizabeth Collection says, how are you able to keep up with all the work like drawing, producing, promoting, selling, and shipping? I am like barely able to, completely honest with you. Like I said earlier, recently I've noticed that like something's got to give and like something's got to change. Otherwise I'm just gonna like quit one day or yeah. So I've got to find a solution. It's extremely hard, and I think that's what's really stunted me as an artist right now, because I have the technical skill, and when I look at the ratio of people who see my artwork versus the people percentage of those people who like buy my artwork because there's a big difference, because like you can have a popular art style but it doesn't transfer to sales, but I have a very high percentage of people who see my artwork and it transferring into sales. But because I don't have time to promote myself and say like buy my product, like, you know, I think that's really fucking annoying. First of all, I'm holding myself back for creation. So funny enough, like, and I think this is probably my own personal problem, but I find that I've been doing this for 5 years, and for some reason personally I don't feel like I've accomplished a lot, which sounds real dramatic. Real Omni Jer Bear says, when did you decide that you were going to do art full time? I think back when I, like I mentioned earlier, when I was promoted to unemployed from that one job, I was like, this is kind of like the only option I have left. So that's when. He also asks again, when did you feel confident enough to consider yourself an artist? Artist, I find that a very interesting word. To me, an artist is someone who creates, does things from scratch, can come up with new things and implement them. For the longest time, I considered myself just an illustrationist, if you will, or someone who just does illustrations. And I still kind of see myself as just an illustrator. But when I started, you know, developing my own stuffed animals, developing my own like product ideas, my own characters, like storylines and stuff like that, that's when I really decided that I was like, man, I'm an artist at the end of the day. But whenever people ask me my profession, I say I am a professional illustrator. K-Panic Arts says, which of your charms / stands is your personal favorite? Which ones are you most proud of? That's a good fucking question. I think the problem with being a full-time artist and someone who constantly has to improve themselves and progress and make changes to themselves in order to become better, to stay relevant and to stay, you know, what I do, to stay doing what I do, which is sell products. I constantly have to look at my artwork and criticize it and say, what is it that I'm going to do to make this better next time I draw? Because you can't sit here and fester on the prior illustration saying like, this is garbage, I'm a worthless artist. You have to look at it and say, okay, so her legs are too short here, I'm gonna make legs longer next time. So constantly, every single time I look at my illustrations, I tend to have a very negative self-voice of them, if you will. So I will say 99% of the time, I do not like my art, how it turns out, but there is a very small 1% where I'm like, wow, I really like this. And I think one of those times is when I did Magical Mirai Miku 2021. I was just really happy with how she turned out. I was really happy with the proportions, and I was just really proud of that illustration. I will say also Shiroko from Blue Archive, I was really happy with how she turned out as well. Like, for example, it's very rare that I put my own artwork anywhere and like I'll use it as like my own keychain or something like that, but I do have like a Shiroko keychain on my keys. I was also very proud of my Rin and Len Symphony standee. I don't like Len, but I think I drew him pretty well, but I did Rin, I think, perfectly. I was so happy with how she turned out. The Jimmy Turner says, how does it feel to be a 5-year-old? That's a very good question. I feel like I act like a 5-year-old sometimes. So I would say it feels pretty good. Thank you. Ogaira-san says, do you do Chibi commissions? I need to, and I really want to, because like, again, I keep getting like sucked into this idea that I need to grind fan art all the time. So hopefully after Anime Expo, I'm going to force myself to accept commissions. And plus commissions make me draw a lot faster because an actual client is waiting on the artwork. So I'm gonna really try and focus on commissions after Anime Expo. And what was funny is that like last year on April 1st, I announced that I was gonna do commissions in the fall. And I was so genuine and serious when I said that because the fall is after Anime Expo of last year. And I ended up not doing it because I just like, it gives me anxiety. But it was kind of funny because it was also on April 1st. So I can say that was a April Fool's joke even though it wasn't. I was serious. Machuni says, are you planning to draw a V flower or CI flower? I'm assuming that's like, I don't know, Chevio maybe? Or any of her versions? What about FGO characters? So with V-Flower, I love her. I think she has a great vocal bank. For a while, I couldn't decide if I wanted to draw her first version or her second version. I was kind of leaning towards the second version, but then her new, Chevio I voice bank came out, and I was like, what is this? And it's one of those situations where I just haven't gotten around to it. I also want to draw her and Kafu at some point because I really like that Vocaloid as well. I think eventually I'd like to draw CU, more Rin of course, and the Micah twins. I think they're called Micah. Yeah, I think they're very cute. What about FGO characters? I have a few FGO characters in my collection. I was a big Fate player for a while, and it's like, The rates are so excruciating, and that game is so excruciating. I don't know if you did the Las Vegas event, but I tried so hard to grind for that character, and I didn't get her, and I kind of like threw a fit. And ever since then, I have not been playing, but I'll log in every now and then when they give out free Saint Quartz, and I usually pull only when Achilles has a banner because he's my strongest character, and every time I get those upgrade materials, I just give them all to Achilles. So I kind of play, but I really don't. Yo Gabe says, how does your production process work? Like from design to charm, how do you go about turning them into physical items? So first and foremost, you have to have a manufacturer, and a trusted manufacturer. I know a lot of artists don't like to talk about their manufacturers, and a lot of times it is for gatekeeping purposes, and I respect their decisions to say that. Me personally, I have had a couple manufacturers over the years. Eventually, the relationship burns, and I don't feel comfortable recommending them to people just yet. I know I've been working with a current manufacturer, and it's been that kind of like period of time where I'm like, okay, I think I can actually recommend this person to other people. But I've had so many times where they burned me in the past. Like, again, I don't even like to sit here and throw people under the bus, but I used to use this manufacturer in the UK, and some of you might know who I'm talking about, and I had so many problems with them. It was a nightmare. I probably have like 400 misprinted charms in a closet right now, just where they kept messing up. They were the only manufacturer I knew at the time, and I just kept using them, and I would when people would ask me, I'd say, this is the manufacturer I use, and I always felt very guilty because I've always had problems with them, and I regret ever recommending that manufacturer to anyone. Then I started using a different manufacturer based in China, and the print quality just started going down, and I would tell them, hey guys, I don't really like this print quality, and they're like, oh, we'll fix it, and they never fixed it. But then like sometimes the print quality would change, and it's just so inconsistent to where it's like I don't feel comfortable recommending it. But I would definitely say a very quick hack actually is just make like a social media post, like on Twitter or on Instagram, saying like hashtag acrylic charm, hashtag artist alley, hashtag small business, all this type of like, you know, those buzzwords. And a lot of manufacturers will come into your DMs and say like, hey, we are a new manufacturer, you know, and they'll give examples of their products. And this is not a bad thing. I've actually used these manufacturers before where I'm like, okay, well, they have actually good examples of their products, and I try it out, and it's a good product. So that's a very easy way to find a manufacturer. But the natural way would to be going to like Alibaba.com, type in acrylic charm manufacturer, and just go through them and see which one has the best reviews. And that's a really good start to find a manufacturer. And then, of course, have your artwork, submit it to them. They're gonna send you a proof saying like, okay, does this look okay? Does this is how we're gonna print the item? And then they'll print it, and then they'll usually take a picture of the item, depending on your relationship with the manufacturer. Starting out, generally they will take a picture of the item for you and say like, okay, do you approve this? You'll say yes, and then they mail them to you, and then you have them. If you need packaging for those charms, you're probably gonna have to use a different manufacturer for that. Another reason why I won't recommend my packaging, because I'm paying out the ass for them, and I need to find a new manufacturer, but I've been too lazy here to sit here and test different manufacturer paper and whatnot. So I'm just paying a lot. Like I'm paying like a ridiculous amount for my packaging, and I know I need to stop. So it's like I'm not gonna recommend that to anyone either. But then like, you know, package your little charm if you want to. A lot of people don't use packaging for their charms. And then get shipping material, usually like a bubble mailer. I say the vanilla bubble mailers are probably the cheapest. Some bubble wrap if you want extra protection. Wrap them up, put them in the bubble mailer, and then ship them out to the person you'd like to ship them out to. If you have a Shopify store or an Etsy store, they will automatically give you the shipping label to print out onto your package, and you just print out that label, put it on the package, and then you're good to go. I hope that answered your question. Neko Millie says, any tips for starting a small business? I think this is a very a detailed question, so I'll answer it briefly, but then I'll probably make a video going into more detail. First and foremost, before you start selling, and I see this all the time, because the thing is like a lot of my fans, I don't like to say fans because that sounds weird, a lot of my followers, but at the same time, like, you know, they say they're a fan of me. But anyway, a lot of my followers are also fellow artists and stuff like that, because whether it be I inspire them or I help them, you know, I notice a lot of them fall at the wayside, if you will, because they will draw and then immediately try selling it. And that's a big problem because, like, of course an artist is going to be biased of their own product. They're gonna be like, everyone wants this, you know, when that's not necessarily the case. So I recommend getting prototypes made of your product. Like, for example, like, try, if you want to do like keychains or something, you know, try out a manufacturer, do the best keychain you can, and then take pictures of those keychains, put them online, put them in different communities, and say, would you guys consider buying this? I'm looking for feedback. The thing is like, a lot of people love giving their feedback on these kinds of things. So, you know, just ask, like, the feedback is the greatest thing you can get, especially for free on the internet. So ask for feedback, say, would you buy these? And I can probably find the first post that I made prototypes of my keychains. I was like, okay guys, would anybody buy this? And I had like 4 or 5 people say yes, and that's all I needed. And I was like, I have a small following. 4 or 5 people was a lot percentage of my, you know, my small following. So I was like, okay, I think this is something I really want to invest in. So don't just draw something and then try and turn it immediately into a product. Get a prototype and here's people's feedback, because sometimes, like, especially starting out, feedback can kind of be painful as a new artist. But, you know, don't take it to heart and just know that you're getting free information to make yourself better, to make yourself and your product better. That's my recommendation. Fei Kitsune says, I probably said that wrong, I'm sorry. How do you choose which Mikus to make since there are new ones literally every day? That is a great question. I try to stick with a theme and dedicate only to a few specific Miku. So like Magical Mirai I've started doing, Snow Miku I've started doing, and the original voice banks, like the Miku designs on the packaging. Sometimes like a new Miku will come out and it's just like, I'm like, I love this, I need to draw this, and I think it's very beautiful. And then that's where I'll go from there. But I want to draw racing Miku, but it's like, if I have to draw one, I have to draw like all 12 of them or however many there are. So it's like, commit to a few, you know, and go from there. XE Law Collection says, which cons will you be attending this year again? Love to buy more of your charms and support your work. I appreciate that so much. Conventions confirmed are, there's like this little one in Vegas coming up because I think like Anime Las Vegas. I will be at MomoCon in Georgia in May? Yeah, in May. And then Anime Expo. I think those are my only confirmed conventions that I will be at. But thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. Arzola Adrian says, what's your personal thoughts on Girls Frontline? I think it was a great game. I say was as if it died. Unfortunately, when the Twitter had that like merger issue or whatever was going on with Elon Musk, I lost my access to my account. But Girls Frontline to me to this day has like the best designs ever, like out of a gacha game. Like all of their designs are fantastic. Like I love their characters more than Azurlane, more than Genshin, more than Blue Archive. Like Girls Frontline has fantastic characters. The only problem and why I don't draw them anymore is because before, when I was drawing Girls Frontline, my Chibi art was chibier, so I wouldn't draw very many details, as you can see here. But as my art style got more detailed and I tried, you know, my canvas got bigger, I started having to draw more things, and that's why these chibis actually take me a long time now to draw them, because they're less chibi and more like proportionate, if that makes sense, to their bodies. So drawing like Girls Frontline characters are insane with details, and it's like really hard. It's really hard to draw them, to be completely honest with you. And I have a problem where it's like drawing monochromatic characters like just gets me so exhausted. Like I like bright colors, I like vibrant colors, but like monochromatic, which is like a lot of Girls Frontline characters, it's really hard for me to stay concentrated and draw. Utah's Hobbies says, what truly caused you to get into this hobby? And I found this question kind of funny. Like, I can't tell if they're asking like, is like my art a hobby? Because like, I mean, technically it's not a hobby if it's my, you know, career and job. Or they also follow me on my my figure collection account and stuff like that. So I think they mean like anime in general. So I'm gonna assume that and answer it that way. Just how pretty the girls look, to be completely honest with you. Like that's like, to this day, like I'll buy figures from characters and I don't even know where the character's from. I just think that, you know, the girl's pretty or whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The pretty art. So just for ease's sake, I think I'm actually going to put this into 2 parts, because I think I'm up to like, it's like an hour of like a footage right now. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in a part 2.